Come join Greg and Richard right here on Talking Red. Hello and welcome to Talking Reds, a Nottingham Forest podcast. I'm your host, Greg Oram, and with me on today's panel, it's Raf the Random Pundit, and a warm welcome back to Jamie Martin. Some games in a season feel important. This one feels huge. Forest against Wolves, a team sitting at the bottom, a team struggling, and a team you simply have to beat if you're serious about staying in this league. After the defeat at Leeds, the margin for error is much smaller. The table is tightening, the pressure is building, and these are the nights survival is built on. Not against the Big Six, not in the glamour fixtures, but in games exactly like this. Wolves at home, 3 points required, no excuses, because this isn't just another match. For Nottingham Forest, this is surely must win. And I ask you all, if Forest can't beat the team in 20th at home, why should anyone believe they're staying up? Felt like I needed to keep it simple with a rousing Muller McIntyre, because that is what we are going to need on Wednesday night. Okay, welcome to you all in the chat. Let us know you're here. Please do pop your comments in so we can show them on screen and give shout outs where possible. And of course, please do go ahead and hit like and subscribe. We really appreciate your support. You can follow us on X, Facebook, TikTok, Instagram. And if you're listening on a podcast somewhere, thanks for joining us later and listening to this back. We really appreciate you tuning in as well. Okay, let's get straight into it. I've got Raf with me. I've got Jamie with me. Raf, first question to you. So if Forest don't win this game at home to the bottom side, what evidence is left that they can win any of the remaining 6 pointers or crucial games?
Yeah, so if you look at this from every single angle, you're kind of going, you know what, this is like do or die kind of game. And I think you're right for many things, because I think Dyche's position becomes fairly untenable at that stage, just because of the noise that will be from absolutely every angle. And I do think that Marinakis will probably have lost patience from what was supposed to be our easier set of fixtures. And for many reasons, and not all on Dyche, we didn't pick up maximum points from that, or at least the amount that we would have said, yeah, we're happy with that, as it were. So from that perspective, I do think it's really do or die. However, in the grand scheme of things, if we had everyone being calm, then we actually look back and we go, look, do we actually perform around the teams that are in and around us, if we think about it? And our wins have come quite a lot of the time from teams that we don't expect to do well against, especially of late. So it would be so Forest to draw or lose against Wolves, but then have Liverpool and beat them, as it were. So for me, it's not all like, oh my gosh, I'm resigned to relegation if we don't get 3 points. But I'm more concerned about what the consequences are in the dressing room with the manager, the instability that comes from it, the fan base, and everything else that then has a negative impact on the ability to go and then beat Liverpool afterwards. And that, for me, that's my worry.
Jamie's back with us, still down under in Australia. How you doing, Jamie? You okay?
Yeah, thank you. No, it's great to be back. Good to be talking to you guys again. Been a little while, so I've been trying to keep up as much as I can, despite the timings with the games and stuff. But by the looks of things, I've not really missed much to be enjoying, unfortunately.
Well, we went to Leeds, didn't we, on Friday night in another really crucial game, and Forest just didn't turn up. They had moments in the game, but ultimately, Leeds were pretty rampant in their spells and got goals. So with that in mind as well, Liz, give us your thoughts, Jamie, give us your thoughts on the Leeds performance. And again, kind of keeping in the same kind of question, if Forest don't beat Wolves, what does that say about them and their ability to win these crunch games?
Well, I'll also say, first of all, credit to Daniel Farke, because he was given a pretty short span of games to save and turn around Leeds, and they've turned them around massively. I think that they were probably one of the teams you would expect to be in that bottom three by now firmly. And Daniel Farke has turned it around, and they're doing pretty good at the moment. They're still obviously going to be on the watch list for teams that could go down, but right now they're doing pretty well. So fair play to Leeds in that respect. And I think Ellen Road is a horrible place to go and lose. I think I'll remember that the last time they were in the Premier League and we were at Ellen Road was probably the worst night, one of the worst nights of my life, alongside that 4-0 Leicester loss at the King Power as well. But I think when it came to that performance against Leeds, it was like no one was playing for each other. We looked so disjointed. A team of individuals. What are these players fighting for? Is there a culture behind them that says this is Nottingham Forest Football Club, this is what we believe in, this is what we fight for, and this is what we want to see stay in the Premier League? Or is there a bunch of egos behind the football team that aren't really that interested, made mistakes, and refuse to admit that? Because right now, people can say what they like about Nuno. Personally, I don't hold resentment towards him, because I do think that the situation isn't as black and white as maybe people or the media would make it out to be. I think we've probably got quite difficult people to deal with in the boardroom. And as a manager, him having Edu come in and shake things up, no one would appreciate that. Someone coming in and questioning your ability to do your job after you've just got a team into Europe and the rest of it. And I do think that West Ham will probably stay up, because I don't think that Nuno's a relegation manager. And I'm not going to allow any bitterness to tell me otherwise. But I just think that the culture that we had under him is what we're missing now. And people can't deny how much of an impact a good changing room can have. When we were trying to stay up in the Premier League that first season, even characters like Jesse Lingard, who we might not look back on so fondly playing-wise, had a huge impact in us staying up, because the players were happy to play for each other and they had the support of each other. And when it comes to when we play Wolves, I really do believe that is make or break for Dyche. But at the end of the day, the people that appointed him will be appointing the next manager. And I think if you sack Dyche now, our chances of going down just increase based on the probability of having this many managers in a season. It's completely unprecedented. And I think as a fan, it is so shocking and embarrassing that we're in this position after the season we've just had. There was no doubt going to be a drop-off. But to potentially go through 4 managers in one season, this is the Premier League. This is just not good enough. And if you sack Dyche, it's hard to see how we get out of this situation.
I want to say good morning to Brucey over in Texas. Thanks for being with us as usual, Brucey. Love you lots. Gary Lamb says he just feels like an empty shell at the moment. Can't even get angry. It's just bitter disappointment. And thank you to Mark for the £2 into the pot. He says if we don't beat Wolves, Dyche will lose the fans. Some might argue he's already lost a lot of fans. Good morning to James. Says, hello, boys. I'm on Marinakis watch, and you know what that means. So he's looking to see if the trigger will be pulled. James goes on to say, it's really very simple. The players don't like and don't respect Dyche. Well, that possibly might be the case. I don't think so personally, if I'm honest with you. I think we've seen enough in recent games that this team are still playing for the manager. So I want to take us back slightly. We come into the new year, and our first game we play against Villa, and we know that did unravel, and it wasn't a great away performance. And so, we had the John Victor moment, and there's bits you can take from that game that are positive, but ultimately it's an away defeat. We then go to West Ham, we get the win. So a crunch game that we did win. So Forest showed, I believe, in that game that actually when the chips are down and when you're in a 6-pointer, they can win it. They did win it. Followed up by a battling point at the champions-elect when we played Arsenal at the City Ground. Followed that up in the Premier League by a away win at Brentford. I think the only team that's won at Brentford this season at that point was Liverpool. Correct me if I'm wrong. So to go and get a 2-0 victory there, again, showed that this team's playing, and we had a really good spell in that first half. We backed that up by the picking up the point at home to Palace, which on another day we win. I had us down to win that game. Nico Williams turned into prime. Peter Shilton puts the ball around the net. So there's lots of kind of context to add into this. But there's a run of games there, Raf, that shows the players are picking points back up again. But like it always seems to be the case, it's almost like we're just one game away with the fan base from it being an absolute catastrophe. So, do you think that there's a catastrophe in the waiting here? If Forest fail to win at home to the team in 20th, does the conversation completely stop being about the players and is solely then a focus on whether the manager keeps his job?
This is the thing is, and this is why I was so disappointed with just not the Leeds result, because I actually had us to lose at Leeds, and everyone in our chats saw, as soon as I saw the team news, I was just like, I thought we were going to lose. I thought we were lucky to get a point. Right now, I'd give my left arm for a point because this is going to go massively Pete Tong. And it did. But how it went Pete Tong was the worrying thing, because you have players like Morgan Gibbs-White, Ola Aina, and Ando himself. Like, these players were so not anywhere near their standard. And you can forgive the back line for when you don't have 3 of your 5. And by the way, whenever that's happened, it's all gone wrong. It's never ended well when we have that much detriment to our core 5 that got us what we got last season. But the other players, they didn't perform. And that's why I was so disappointed, because we were building this crescendo, right? Forget the Nico red card and not getting the full points at Palace. I think it is well regarded by everyone. If we'd had 11 people, we would have won that game. Palace were toothless against us, right? So you would have carried on that trajectory, and then suddenly we fall off. Now, for me, I don't get that. And I know Ellen Road is a place that is seriously horrendous to go to. Right? It's just the cauldron of what it is like. But going to Fenerbahce is not going to be a picnic, is it? Right? It's going to be even worse than that. And I don't think, these players, a lot of them have got, they've gone to Anfield and they've done like really well. So I don't really understand what it is. And this is where Jamie's point around, the culture and the dressing room and everyone being aligned and what are they playing for? For me, this is my problem with Dyche, is that I don't understand. Players can't just suddenly start caring and then not care and then care and then not care. Right? That doesn't make any sense to me. So if there's something in the background, is it match prep? Is it getting beasted one too many fitness things in the week before a game? Is it just psychology of something that's happening and maybe they don't have a psychologist that's part of the team that's doing the right way? Is he just treating everyone in the same way and not doing it in different ways because all people are built differently? I don't know. But that's the thing that really concerns me. But there is nothing we can do. And I think this is what we've just said, is even if we lose to Wolves, we can't just throw Dyche out, as much as I don't really believe that this is the solution for any amount of time going forward. But we can't just do that. I mean, unless we have a caretaker manager, Andy Reid, comes in for the rest of the season or something like that, which is, we could do that. But I mean, run the stats for how much we'll stay up probably doing that. It's looking pretty bleak. So this is why I don't want us to put any rhetoric around this game to build it up any more than it possibly is, just because of the connotations. If we don't get 3 points, we can't have a mass fallout in the club, in the fan base and everything else as well.
We're sticking with Dyche, we're sticking with his position, and we're sticking with his decision-making, Jamie. So I made a big deal after the Leeds game about the new signing, Luca Netz versus Zach Abbott. And I said beforehand, for me, Luca Netz should start as the natural left back. And it then transpires that he was going to play Murillo at left back. So he was going to be Murillo left back, Milenkovic, Morato, and Ola Aina at right back. And so when Murillo comes up with an injury, after they've had their last training session, there's no time to kind of fix things. He then decides that he's not going to just switch Murillo out for the natural left back, who I think should have started anyway. He's going to switch Ola Aina over from right back, and he's going to play Zach Abbott, who we all have high hopes for. We all want it to do well, but I just don't think is Premier League ready. Bryn says in the comments, we can't have players out of position. Abbott impacted Dominguez as he had to play defensive to cover. Net should have started. He's faced ultras in Germany. He's got 100 appearances or more under his belt in the Bundesliga. Michael, Michael Ann, style of play and not playing players in their correct positions aren't helping. No need to have heavy training sessions before. Game asking for trouble. So on the Leeds game, it's a Dyche's decision to play Zach Abbott at right back. And I put no blame or shade on Zach Abbott. He's a young lad, but he's a centre-back, Jamie. And yes, I've wanted him to play in Europa games against lesser opposition where I think he can do well and has done well. But playing away at Ellen Road on a Friday night in front of that atmosphere, I thought was the wrong decision. So are those decisions ultimately what's going to cost Dyche and going to cost Forest?
Well, I'll say on Luca Nets first. I think that the reality is the recruitment team have just brought in a player who's got, like someone said in the chat, actually, over 100 appearances in the top league in Europe. A fantastic fullback that has been read as one of the upcoming fullbacks in Europe for quite a while. A little bit informal, but Football Manager proves that as well. But this is real life. This is real life, for God's sake. I mean, if you're buying him for a Premier League football club, why on earth isn't he ready for a Premier League football match? Now, I can offer a sort of logical, maybe different perspective to that. Maybe Dyche hasn't seen a lot of him. He's seen more of Abbott, and he just thinks he'll be more assured. But as a fan perspective, someone that watches football, I don't get to see them 5 or 6 days a week, however he gets to see them. But we can all see that Abbott isn't quite at this level yet. And that is totally okay. I think that people need to realise that saying someone who is a Forest Academy graduate isn't at this level, that's fine. It's not me saying I don't want him to do well. This is me saying, for his sake, putting him in front of all these players at Ellen Road when we know he's not ready. This isn't a situation where he's kind of fresh. He's never really played before. And it's like, this is your opportunity. We've seen him before. We know that he's not really up to this standard. And he is a centre-back, but I even think physically he wouldn't match it in the Premier League. Just looking at him, he's not ready for it. And then you go and watch him in a game and you see the performance and it's like, okay, too slow to be a fullback, really. Just can't match the quality. I just think it's a real disappointment that you wouldn't use someone like Luca Nets, who we've brought in for the exact point of playing at fullback when we don't have someone there, or to give competition to Nico and Ola. So Dyche's decision-making, and I agree with Raf, I think that it would be silly to sack him because, again, your probabilities of going down are pretty much almost 100% if you've had 4 managers in a season. It's just unprecedented stuff. But you have to question him. Because surely in his eyes, he's seeing Zach Abbott and going, this isn't working. How can you see anything differently other than that? I wish him all the best, but he just isn't up to the standard.
Go on, Raf.
Yes, I'll give the opposing view on this, right? And by the way, it's not that I believe either. It's just for balance. And I actually think that Dyche was onto a lose-lose with the situation. He was dead in the water, and the fan base would have crucified him for whatever decision he made. And it's because of this, right? So Abbott, you would say, again, he's seen Abbott. It's a known quality. He played in the semi-final against Man City and was fine, right? He was absolutely fine. And anyone who wants to be revisionist about that, I would question you, because we're all coming out going, oh my gosh, he did well. Oh, we're really excited about this graduate person, right? So that's against Man City in a massive game and a huge amount of pressure. Granted, it's not Ellen Road, but at the same time, it's huge pressure. He's also half a season further on in his development at that juncture. And Dyche has trained him. He has the instructions of what Dyche wants to do. And therefore, it's a known element to him. It's less of a risk than a player that's just come in and may have 100 Bundesliga appearances under his belt, but he's not 100% tuned into the strategy of what that defense is supposed to do and how we want to play. Now, if you'd played Nets, if I was Leeds, I would have made sure that everything was going down the right with Omar Bogle and not down the left, and I would have just targeted Nets. Now, Nets came on and did well, but he had about 7 minutes, right? And the game state was very different. So you have no idea if Nets would have stood up to 90 minutes of them firing absolutely everything down that side, right? We just don't know. And so I think there's a lot of ifs and buts, and we can use, hindsight as a wonderful thing. But if that had happened, then you have your probable third string that we're going to have to use. Confidence absolutely shot off the back because they have a shocker of a game, and you're going to need them at some point, probably in Europe for big games as well, going forward. And actually, you've totally and it's going to take a month to be able to get Nets' confidence back to be able to play. So that's what I'm saying. I don't think there was any winners out of that situation. We don't know what would have happened. And I actually think the play that Dyche did was the lower risk option for that game, and also going forward for what we might need out of Nets.
Okay. Well, the Leeds game has gone. The Nets v Abbott situation has gone. And we can all have our opinion on that. Mine is completely different. And I think it was the wrong decision, as I've said many, many times. But we move on. We now focus on Wolves, and we will have Nico Williams back, we expect. We hope that Murillo has recovered from his injury. We wonder if Sells will have recovered from his injury, because those have been important players for us. And I think also with Zach Abbott, being under pressure on Friday night, a lot of the focus, not all the focus, but a lot of the focus hasn't really been on the goalkeeper so much. Ortega hasn't played since last summer's Club World Cup. He did look a little bit rusty. Some might say that he could have come out and closed Bogle down and blocked that first goal. But again, shoulda, coulda, woulda, ifs, buts, and maybes. He didn't. They scored. He's only been at the club himself a handful of days, but was still thrust in to the starting lineup. Wolves come to the City ground, and you kind of feel like the pressure's off them, with them being rock bottom. They've made a couple of new signings, Jamie. I'm not sure if you've been tuned into who's coming, but Angel Gomez, one of them in midfield. Again, I'm not completely tuned into Wolves and what they do. We're going to get the opposition report from Raf later on, so we can get a little bit more of an idea about Wolves. But I was suggesting in the previous episode that this is a real dangerous game for Forest, because the pressure's off Wolves, because it's almost like they can play with a freedom that says, you know what, we're relegated, we know that, but actually we've got nothing to lose, let's go and play. Having said that, they were 3-0 down at home to Chelsea in the first half on the weekend, ended up losing 3-1. One thing I will say about Wolves is that they concede far more goals than their actual XG against suggests. Basically, I've got it here. I've written it down so I don't forget it as well. Wolves concede far more actual goals than their XG against suggests. I mean, could that be down to bad defending, their goalkeeping, or for this game, does it mean that Forest need to just create more chances and the goals will come? Yeah, in simple terms.
Start? Yeah, I think when it comes to Wolves, I think that Angel Gomez, it actually surprised me that they managed to sign him. I don't know if it was on a permanent deal or a loan, but I was shocked because he was tipped to leave on a free last season from where he was playing in France, and to think he's now landed at relegation-bound Wolves, for me is just baffling. That being said, I don't think there's enough quality in that squad really to do anything other than potentially cause us a bit of an issue on Wednesday, like you say. And I think that it's such a rough kind of situation to be in because we're in February. There's still a long way to go, but if you do lose against Wolves, obviously and rightfully so, it does put Dyche in a situation. But it's not like Dyche started the season. We've had 2 managers before him, potentially moving on to your 4th. And like you guys said earlier, who on earth comes in for him? Because I personally don't think that the ownership and whoever makes the decisions are that great when it comes to last-minute panic decisions. We almost signed Michy Batshuayi, not so, many seasons ago, panic buying and the rest of it. We haven't got a good record for making decisions under pressure when it comes to a board level. And I think that's a problem. So I'd rather ride it out with Dyche, potentially just stay up. But Wolves is going to be probably the litmus test of what to expect for the rest of this season now. Because if you don't beat them, and this team, let's please not not say it any other way. This team has the potential to be doing so much better than this. It has the personnel to be doing so much better than this. It has the talent. It has all the minerals to go and succeed. But I don't think the coaches are really getting it out of them. And B, like I said earlier in the episode, I think the culture is so struck that it's just put a massive limit on what this team can achieve. And right now, that is so far below the performances they can, that they are and have been known to produce. So for me, it is absolutely a must win. But should we sack Dyche if we don't? No, I don't think so.
Okay, we're going to take a break a little bit ahead of halfway because I know, Jamie, you're going to have to go fairly soon. I want to keep hold of you for a bit longer. Here comes the Cheese Trader.
This episode of Talking Reds is brought to you by the Cheese Trader. If you love proper cheese and you love Nottingham Forest, then this is the place for you. From rich, creamy blues to powerful charcoal cheddar, the Cheese Trader has the flavour to match every moment of the season. Whether you're celebrating a big win or drowning your sorrows after a tough loss, use the code Talking Reds for 10% off every order. The Cheese Trader on Grape Lane in York, owned by Forest fan Stu Freestone. Proper cheese, proper passion. Find them online today and join the cheese revolution.
Our good friend Stu Freestone, the Cheese Trader, 10% off when you quote Talking Reds. Okay, right. We're talking about Wolves. We're also talking about the decision making of Sean Dyche. I'm putting this into the mix as well. The Europa squad changes were named, and we, as expected, had Amari Hutchinson and Lorenzo Luca added. And I thought, and I think a lot of people thought that meant that Luca Netz would go in, but he didn't put Luca Netz in. He's put in Jair Cunha, who we all rate. Willy Bolly's getting left out of both squads. So there's other things to consider in there as well as to what's going on at the club and who's making decisions and if it's going to come back to bite us. Because I just think having Netz not in the Europa squad, I agree with Danscape in the comments. He says Netz can't play in Europe, he thinks, which is utter madness. I agree with that. On this game, if Forest create chances, the data suggests the goals should be there against a Wolves team, as I say, who are conceding more goals than their XG against suggests. So when we think about our teams, I'm going to indulge myself and put my team forward first, which is a 4-2-3-1. I think changes need to happen. So I'm looking at Matt Sells in goal if he's fit. So obviously if he's not fit, he doesn't play. It's going to be Ortega. I think that's a given. I think he's been brought in to back up Sells. So that would be Ortega. I've gone Williams in at left back, Aina at right back, Murillo Milenkovic in the back line. Again, if there's no Murillo, then someone else needs to come in. And for me, that would be Jair Cunha, because I think we are well past Morato time. In fact, it's time for Morato to do one, because I've had enough of him. I really have. Anderson Sangare in the midfield in the 2. Hudson-Odoi plays left. Gibbs-White plays in the 10. Omari Hutchinson on the right to feed and service a Lorenzo Luca up front. It's now time for him to have his first start in a Forest shirt in the Premier League in a must-win match. We saw the goal that he's been bought in to score against Leeds on Friday night with Omari Hutchinson pinging it in and him plopping it in the back of the net with his head. That's the goal that he's been bought in to score. He is an out-and-out Sean Dyche type number 9. Many will say that the team picks itself in many departments. Some will argue for other players like Ndoye, Nico Dominguez to play. And of course, if we are stretched with absentees in the back line again, then that also puts another spin on this game, on this must-win game. So that's my team. For those that can't see it, it's Williams, Murillo, Milenkovic, Aina, Anderson, Sangare, Hudson-Odoi, Gibbs-White, Hutchinson, and Lorenzo Luca, Sells in goal, pending them being fit, of course. Jamie, coming to you, because you've gone with similar. I'll let you explain why and who you've chosen, etc.
Well, I thought that the rest of the personnel kind of chose themselves, really. I think, obviously, like you mentioned with Sells, probably going to be replaced by Ortega. And to answer one of the questions, I think, from Brucey, I'd be confident if Ortega starts, because I think he's, he knows the Premier League very well. He's played at the highest level, and I don't see why he wouldn't with us, albeit maybe a little bit rusty because he's not played for a while. The change that obviously I've made was mainly because I wasn't sure if Murillo was going to be fit. We've got to give Cunha a start at some point. I think the deal with Botafogo to bring him and Cuyabano in was, it seems very strange. Obviously, Cuyabano now going to Vasco da Gama in Brazil. But it does seem like they wanted to keep a hold of Cunha. So I do want to see us give him a chance. Why not? Because if the idea is that it's pipeline recruitment where we see him next season, well, we're in the mud. Why not give him a chance? Morato is, I'm going to try and use the most formal words I possibly can, just not performing anywhere near to the level that A Premier League player should be, and B, the standard that he kind of brought last year. So why not give Cunha that chance? And as for the rest of the team, I do feel that it picks itself, albeit the performances still being below par. But I am excited to see Lorenzo Luca in his first start, because I think the last time we played Wolves away, was it a Harry Toffolo goal from Nico Williams' cross that won the game? But I'd be very excited to see how he comes up in those crosses against Wolves as well. Very tall, like you said, a Dyche-style striker. I do think that, and I really, really hope, I'm trying to be as optimistic as I can, that he'll be the sort of Taiwo Awoniyi of that first season in the Premier League in this last run to keep us in the league.
We did beat Wolves at their place 1-0 with a Hutchinson cross for Igor Jesus to clip a header into the back of the net. So again, there's that goal, and it would feel like, Luca's set up perfectly for that. Raf, over to you, mate. Your team is on screen.
Yeah, I've gone a bit differently, and I just think that, like you've said, we should be able to score more easily against them, right? So for that, I don't think we need to create 1 million chances on goal, but what we do need to do is control the game as much as possible and just have no freak out moments where we've just got panic setting in. I also was seriously concerned, again, it's because Dominguez was asked to be a wing back. We've seen that experiment before, doesn't work, or not a wing back, but certainly chasing back a lot to cover Abbott. We only have now 4 midfielders, and it's critical that all of them are on point when we need them. So I really want Dominguez to come back in and get his mojo back again, back to the levels prior to that last game, because we're going to really need him. So I prefer this 4-3-3. I really like it. For me, it's Sells or Ortega. I think basically the back line, we're all in agreement. And if Murillo is out, I would put Acuna in. I know there are lots of people that are going to be jumping up and down from a technical perspective, saying, oh, he's not left-footed. Morato's left-footed. Right now, I will take a right-footed defender that can defend over a left-footed defender that cannot in a back two. It's really that simple for me. I may be wrong, though. But for me, I just want that security. And I also want someone more mobile next to Milenkovic, because we saw the worst of Milenkovic last game, like at the beginning of the season when Murillo wasn't here. When he doesn't have a mobile partner with him, it all goes wrong. And also one that doesn't understand responsibility, not to go firing halfway up the pitch quite a lot of the time. I know Murillo does it once in a while, but he also tracks back. Morato does not track back. And he does it a lot more than Murillo. So the midfield is your Sangare, Anderson, Dominguez. We've seen it lots. Okay. And actually, this is time to, with what they've got in midfield, the midfield's actually not that bad. It's getting control of that midfield and stopping them progressing through our midfield and being able to break on us as well. Get to the top. And then this is where we've all talked about Luca. It's the Hutchison and Gibbs-White crosses. And they're probably some of the best crossers of the ball, but it's also that creativity to get into the Wolves box, because they do like giving away penalties, etc. As we've seen against Chelsea, gave away 2 of them. So these are probably our 2 most tricky players to then potentially get some pens for Anderson to take, not Morgan Gibbs-White to take.
Thank you very much indeed. Okay, Jamie, I know you need to go, so thank you very much for coming on and joining us. I think it's about 25 minutes to midnight over in Sydney now. Is that about right? So it's very late for you. Anything you want to leave us with before you depart on the Wolves game or Forest in general, or anything else, perhaps?
Well, I just want to say keep supporting the boys. You know what I mean? It's always really tough when things are going wrong, and I tell you what, it's hard to stay optimistic. I can only imagine how hard it is being in the stadium at the moment when it is the way it is, because it's bad enough waking up at 7 a.m. and looking at your scores and being like, for God's sake, what on earth what went wrong? And then seeing a huge list of things, reading the WhatsApp chats from the various football chats that I'm in, and it's like, I'm glad that I've got very well balanced friends, because when I asked my dad how the game went, it's fair to say I got a pretty short answer with some very strong words. So, yeah, thank you for inviting me on again. It's great to talk to you both, and just thanking everyone for continuing to listen. Keep subscribing, doing your thing, keep supporting Talking Reds, because it is the very best out there. And yeah, thank you for your support, Greg and Raf, through everything. So come on, you Reds.
Thanks, Jamie. Really appreciate you coming on. And I think you're going to be back in a few months' time. Enjoy. If we don't speak to you again between now and you coming back, just enjoy every last minute of being over there. And yeah, we'll see you soon, buddy.
I'll be the same colour as my shirt by the time I'm back, mate. Thank you, guys.
Okay. All the best.
Take care of
Bye-bye.
yourselves. Bye-bye.
Just want to dip into the comments. It's just myself and Raf left. Stephen says, I hope to be proved wrong, but if Deitch stays, we will get relegated. I think Nuno is a better manager than the cretin we have in charge. I think West Ham will survive. Gary says, Wolves is a must-win for Deitch. He's gone. If the fallout would be too much for him to survive. There's one or two others as well. Pat Brett, good to have you back with us, Pat. He says, if we lose to Wolves, Deitch will be sacked. James says, if Deitch takes us down, you'll all look back on these last few games and say, this is when we should have got rid. I ask you guys in the comments, everybody, if you think Sean Deitch should be gone now or definitely gone if we lose to Wolves, who would you honestly have come in? Don't come at me with Andy Reid and Warren Joyce, because I'm going to lose my rag if you do, because that's just bonkers, all right? My view is this. Sacking Sean Deitch now would be madness. Whether we've had one manager before him or 15 managers before him, we are where we are at this point in the season. He has been in place for however many games it is. And we've got to look at his record over that period of time and where we were when he came in. We were in the bottom three. There was a points deficit to overcome. He's done that. And we are now 3 points clear of West Ham, who must host Man United. A Man United team that are going to the London Stadium to make sure that lad can get his hair cut for a fifth win in a row, because they're flying. So I firmly believe that West Ham lose that game to Man United. Leeds have to go to Chelsea. And I firmly believe that Liam Rosenior will win that game with Chelsea. And I believe that we will beat Wolves. So we're going to be back we are going to be back to where we started before the game kicked off on Friday. Level on points with Leeds and 6 points ahead of West Ham. But if we don't beat Wolves, if it's a draw, let's say we lose, if West Ham do beat Man United and we're only above them on goal difference, there's still a lot of football to be played. Bringing in another manager now who's going to have to acclimatise and customize, get used to these players, in my mind, would be absolutely suicidal. So I want to know, all you people that want Sean Deitch out, I'm not saying you're wrong. I am really, but it's your opinion. James says Roy Keane. I just don't get that, James. I just in what
that'd be brilliant.
You're just plucking names out. Come on, give me someone who is a viable candidate to come in and replace Sean Deitch now. Someone who's got recent experience managing, someone who can, in a dogfight, can get these players working. Does it need to be a club legend like Man United and they turn to Carrick, a club legend? Is there one out there? I've seen it on X this morning. If we were sacking the manager now, and it wasn't Sean Deitch who was the manager, Sean Deitch would be on everybody's list to bring in. That's the kind of manager you want. So I'm asking you again, guys, in the comments or listening, who would you want to come in? Because I think it would be absolutely suicidal to sack Sean Deitch now, win, lose or draw against Wolves. Raf, sum it up for me. Do you think I'm completely bonkers? Or, I know you said you wouldn't want to sack Deitch. Give me a name who you think. Let's say Marinakis, because he's the one that makes the decisions. Let's say Marinakis says, you know what, I've seen enough. Who could he bring in?
And this is what I'm saying is I don't really think there's any. I don't think there's anyone out there, and it's got to be someone who can hit the ground instantly, motivate players absolutely instantly, and it not be a manager bounce thing. We can't just have a bit of a bounce and then it all fall off while we're then readjusting after the honeymoon period is over. And this is it. I don't really have an answer to that, and that's what I'm saying. We just need to all just keep calm. It's going to be seriously uncomfortable for the rest. And this is what's annoying, is actually, this is why I'm annoyed about Palace, and I'm annoyed about, I don't blame Nico, by the way, for Palace. I don't blame him. Like, he just blocked 2 shots beforehand, throwing his body at them as well. So he's in throwing his body around mode for the good of the team. But if we're 5 points better off, but I didn't think we were going to win at Leeds anyway. But if we were, than we are now, then we're 8 points clear going into this Wolves game to potentially go 11 points clear. And that takes the pressure off. We can then play with fluidity and actually express ourselves more. And I think that Dyche will, look, we saw we go up, then Dyche literally goes into, right, guys, don't put the ball at risk mode at all. And we wouldn't have that. It would be, we've scored 1, right, lads, go and score another 2 kind of situation. But we're not there. We can't do that. And it's not correct to expect us to do that, because that's fighting what is just natural. We're not going to get that out of the manager. So if we're clamoring for it, it's not going to happen. And if we get a manager in who's half of what Ange was, that potentially could be completely suicidal, because everything that we've had success has been built on our defence, right? And to be honest, we played 25, we scored 25 goals, right? So if the defence can do what they need to do and keep a clean sheet, we score a goal on average every game, bosh, 1-0, win. We probably just need to do that 3 times more this season in the rest of the games, and we're absolutely fine. So for me, it's not, and I don't think there's a manager out there to be able to reprogram absolutely everything. I might be wrong. And if there is one, great, but it's still a massive, it's the risk factor. It's risky keeping Dyche. For me, it's even riskier bringing someone in. Both are risks. It's just where, and this is it, if we lose to Wolves, is it in the board's mind that the risk has now got too large, keeping Dyche over just rolling the dice again? But you know what? There's so many records that, we just don't want in the Premier League, and having 4 managers in one season is just one that we just don't want, and will follow us around for a really long time.
James is challenging me to explain why not Roy Keane instead of laughing. I wasn't really laughing. I think I was just a bit flabbergasted, James. I do respect your opinion. But the reason why I wouldn't say Roy Keane is because he hasn't managed for a long, long time. He's only been an assistant. He was an assistant to Martin O'Neill. He was an assistant at Villa. He hasn't had his finger on the pulse of management for a long time. I don't even know if he'd want the job personally. And let's say he wanted it. He's the kind of character that would come in and probably rub up the people the wrong way, because his viewpoint is his viewpoint. And, Dyche is a bit old school. If there's anyone more old school than Dyche, it's probably Roy Keane. It has to be done this way. And I could just see there being an even bigger fallout. So I just think it would be the wrong move to bring Roy Keane in. As much as I like him as a pundit, and I do agree with a lot of what he says, I don't think that he's done anything of any note in any way, shape or form to be considered as a Premier League manager to save someone even going down.
What's Carrick's background and what's he's done previously? Carrick.
Oh, Michael Carrick. Well, Michael Carrick, his background was he did very well at Middlesbrough, didn't he? He was in charge of Middlesbrough for a good period of time. And actually, they were a club that was in a bit, I wouldn't say crisis, but they were kind of flirting with the bottom part of the league when he came in, and actually transformed them into a very good, stable Championship side and moved them up the table to a really good position. And so he
never managed Premier League.
Never managed Premier League. No, you're absolutely right.
And he's smashing it.
And he's smashing it because he's coming in and he's doing simple things right, some might say. He's playing players in positions. And so
this is why I don't think that you can discount any option as 100% wrong, because if you'd gone Carrick's going in there, who would have backed him to literally transform this team and probably them go in the summer, do you know what, mate? Why don't you keep your job?
Well, that's the conversation they're going to probably have. But sometimes chemistry works, but you don't know it's going to work until you try. Okay, I mean, the chemistry with Steve Cooper for Forest was exceptional until obviously, we struggled in the Premier League in that second season with him, and so therefore the change was made. I just don't know that. I mean, this goes back to the ownership, doesn't it? I just don't know that the ownership are going to make a decision to change the manager, having seen all the carnage that changing the manager caused at the start of the season when they changed it twice. And I just think as well, off the back of the Wolves game, we've got a break this coming weekend as well. We don't play. It's the FA Cup, I think. It's 7 days until we play Fenerbahce in Turkey. So it's another 7 days there of working with the team, working with the players. Some might argue that's a perfect time to change a manager. Come in, 7 days, work with the team. I just think that Marinakis, with advice from people around him, I just hope would be a little bit more, I don't know, calmer. But you just never know. Look, if we get our arses handed to us at home to Wolves, then you might see me with a pitchfork in my hand as well. Because it's an emotive situation. I'm just calling for calm heads, guys. There's a lot of football still to be played in this Premier League, and I think I'm not looking at the Leeds game. I'm looking at West Ham, Arsenal, Brentford, and Crystal Palace when we were gonna batter them. All for the handball 10 men. We still got a point. There's always going to be a game that comes along where we don't turn up and we play shit. We'll be back to it against Wolves with Nico back in the side and hopefully one or two of the other injured players as well. And I firmly believe we will get the win against Wolves. And I firmly believe that Leeds will lose and West Ham will lose. But we are focusing on the Wolves team now. We are going to have a little bit more of a look at them.
I hope anybody's not stupid enough to write us off.
Okay, we have our opposition report. Raf is going to whiz us through a look at Wolves.
Cool. And again, I know Rich isn't with us today, so just wishing him speedy recovery. He's got minging fever and some other bits and pieces, but he always works hard in the background if he's not on to prep material for us. So, buddy, absolutely love you. Hope you get well soon. So with Wolves, actually, what we always kind of assumed with them, and we think of Wolves and we go, back three, wing backs. That's kind of what they've done forever. They weirdly changed it up against Chelsea and went with a flat back four and moved to a 4-2-3-1. So it's actually quite difficult to figure out what they might come to us with. I think that they possibly might go to a back three again, just for the security. But it's very, very difficult to know. What is interesting though is that, as I said when we last previewed Wolves, they've even upped their count now. So we've got two Buenos, of which against Chelsea they were playing side by side. So if you were coming down your right hand flank, you were basically getting to their defence, and you had their left back Bueno and their left centre back Bueno, which is absolutely fantastic. And probably both of them will play. And it just depends on who's playing on the right-hand side as to which side the wing-back Bueno will go on to. Then to throw the confusion into the mix, they've now gone and picked up Angel Gomez to bring their Gomez count to 4. So we now have 4 Gomezes, of which will be scattered all over the pitch to just cause complete confusion in marking and calling things out and tactically and everything else as well. So I think their new tactic is to buy as many players with the same name as possible just to confuse the opposition, which is all good fun. Anyway, back to more serious things. Where they are is they have kind of picked up, well, they thought they picked up at the turn of just as we got to the new year. And they had that win, if you remember, against West Ham. That was their win, right? That was there. And that's when people thought, wow, yeah, this is the turning point. But then they had a lot of tough games, which they've had. And to be honest, they've conceded 2, they've conceded 3 most of those games, but they've been against good, expansive, goal-hungry sides that are out there. They haven't scored that much, but at the same time, we can't just walk into this because they have been playing better. And as Greg says, they're playing with a bit of a freedom now, because from what we've seen and how they sold players in this window, they're pretty much just were asset stripping and getting the most amount of value they could for their prime assets, other than Wolf, who we tried to buy apparently, ahead of their trip down to the Championship and then being devalued. So they're not at their strongest, but they're dangerous because they don't care, right? And that's the problem that we've got. You'll have Sarr in goal. I've already talked about the 2 Buenos. And then you are going to probably, I would say, have Mosquera in that back 2 or 3, depending. And then you might have an Andre, although he's got an injury, he might be back in time for this game. I don't know. And that might affect if they play their back 2 or 3, because Andre will go into that. Actually, no, he probably won't. He'll go into the midfield. Sorry. I don't know what I'm doing. So they'll probably play that back 3. Now, where their threat comes from, and we'll come on to it on the next slide very quickly in a second, is absolutely they don't have much threat, and it's very difficult to know where they are. They've rotated their strikers a lot. You could see Hwang up front. You could see Mane be chucked up front. Arokadara came in and he played up front, right? And so you don't really know which striker, if they're playing a 2 or a 3. Well, you will see Hwang probably playing some part of it. You will see Mane playing some part of it. And Alan Armstrong, who's come on, who can play up top, hasn't been played up top and was played off the left in that 3 behind the striker against Chelsea. So it's very difficult right now, with lots of new pieces coming in and out, to know exactly how they're going to line up. But they'll probably play a back 3, I think. But at the same time, it's very, very, very difficult to know. And ultimately, as you can see, no one in their team has got more than 2 goals. No one in their team has got more than 2 assists. And the 2 assists have come from Wolf, who is injured. No, but he kind of plays off one of their wings, or as one of their wing backs. But again, Bueno, wing back, 2 goals. Mane, sometimes midfield, sometimes up top, 2 goals. Defender, 2 goals, right? Then Akradori says striker, another one of their strikers, 2 goals. Chan, 2 goals. Now, very interestingly, how they attack. It's the least percentage I've seen going up the middle of the park, right, at 25%. They've got 38% down the left, 37% down the right. And that is their wing-back play, which they really heavily rely on. It's also the most I've seen of action zones being in their own third, with 31% being in their own third, 43% in the middle, and only 26% in the opposition third. So you can see they're favouring breaking and actually not having that much control of games, but doing what we did last season. And again, I don't think I've ever seen it in all the previews you've done to have 6% in the 6-yard box, right? So they're shooting from further away. They're not tap-in goals. And there's 35% of their shots coming from outside. Set pieces are less of a factor, right? They've scored 4. They've conceded 5. They concede from counter-attacks 4, which is actually quite high a figure when we're doing these things. 4 own goals. Absolutely amazing, right? 3 penalties, of which 2 were last game. So there's a lot of jeopardy in the box. If we can just cause chaos in their box, lots of stuff can happen, really, for me. That's it. But open play, that's the thing. And it dials back to Greg's point about them really not doing well with the shots come in on their box, because they give up more goals than their XG are. So get the ball into Luca, even if it's quite a difficult chance, he probably scores. And we're back to the Woodsman and what we got out of Woody.
Thanks, Raf. Okay, we're nearly out of time. Thank you so much to everyone that's been with us throughout the chat. We did get quite emotive, don't we, as Forest fans? We've all got opinions, and I think that that's a really good thing. So, share your opinions. And I want to thank people. The last episode, the Leeds review, really high numbers of viewing, really high numbers of people commenting on YouTube thereafter. People that come on to Talking Reds give up their time freely, and I'm really grateful to everyone who contributes. Richard and I wouldn't be able to have the channel without the likes of Raf and Jamie today and others that you all know. Mark Turner was with us at the weekend. Took a little bit of flack in the comments. I think be mindful about how you might maybe give a bit of feedback. I think Mark's a really good contributor and he'll be back on the channel as well. We don't cancel anybody for having an opinion. All right. So I wanted to just put that out there, that your opinion in the chat is just as valid as ours. We always try and debate and offer balance. Sometimes I don't manage that. Sometimes I get a little bit too worked up, and I apologize that my balance sometimes goes out the window. Raf, really good at bringing balance back into the equation. So thank you very much to you, Raf. The question I asked at the start, though, if Forest can't beat the team in 20th at home, why should anyone believe they're staying up? Because Ant makes a really good point in the chat. He says, what if we need 40 points to stay up? Because this year, Raf, you haven't got the three that came up in the bottom three. Leeds have bucked that trend. And Sunderland have also bucked that trend. You've got a Wolves team going down. You've got Burnley going back down. Currently, it's West Ham. Let's say West Ham continue their run of games where they're picking points up. It might go higher than what's been in the last few years, 32 to 35 points being enough. It might go all the way to 40, Raf. Have we got enough in us with these games that are left over? Where are we picking up the wins, Raf? Where are we picking up?
Yeah, I did this, and I think a few people have. And I actually think, well, one, I think you're right. I think it is. I think two will be cut away, and that third spot will be quite a high figure this season. But they have minging fixtures, right? The others around us as well. And I don't think they're going to start picking up. They've just picked up points where they needed to pick up points, really, to be honest. They're playing more the normal playbook of picking up points in the bottom six teams and not picking up points from elsewhere, right? Leeds have been bleeding a point. They're basically just a point. They don't pick up that many wins, but they keep picking up point. Now, will that be enough? And can they keep it sustained? I don't know when the pressure's on. For us, right, this Wolves game, then you got Liverpool at home. I actually weirdly think we do them. And I don't know why. I've just got it in my bones. But it has to. We have to show at Wolves that the mojo's back, right? The vibes are back. And if that Slot, I think, is in a real hurt locker at the moment, and you know how we're in his head the entire time. I think we get points there. Brighton away, nothing. Right? Man City away, nothing. We might be able to get a point at Brighton, maybe. Fulham at home has got revenge written all over it massively, and that is a game that we would target to win. Spurs away, go to that stadium, score the first goal, anything. That could be a loss, that could be a draw, that could be a win, that could be absolutely anything there. And we don't know what state Spurs are going to be in. They could be behind us on points at that time when we go there, and the pressure, that will be vitriolic with their fans, like in that stadium. Villa at home, I would say no points, right? Burnley at home, we should be winning that 3 points. Sunderland away is a minging fixture, and I don't expect to get anything from that game whatsoever, but we could scrape a point. It's like going to Leeds, right? Chelsea away, don't expect anything from that. Oh, by the way, I don't know if you're counting these up, Greg. Newcastle, do you know what? Brentford just went there and won, right? The mojo is not strong with Newcastle at the moment. They've got a good manager. Eddie Howe comes out going, I'm not doing a good enough job at the moment. I'm not getting the best out of the team. Can't see our manager saying that whatsoever at the moment. So I don't know what state Newcastle's going to be in and how much they're fighting for stuff at that time for Europe. Man United away, who knows what beast will be there at that time? I don't know. But away, Man U, anything could happen there. And then Bournemouth at home. Bless my giddy aunt. Oh my gosh. I really hope we don't have to get anything against Bournemouth, even though it's at home, but I don't know.
Going into the Bournemouth game, and I was doing a bit of a mental checkup, you know, when you were talking about anything could happen, I kind of gave us a point for those games. I kind of got us with your summation on about another 13 points coming in. I think we're on 26 now. That's about 39. I mean, every other season that finishes us outside the relegation zone. but we just don't know. So we will have to wait and see. We will take it one game at a time. Raf, score prediction for Wolves.
Oh, balmy game. We never score lots of goals, but I just think something just clicks, and I think 3-1. Sod it. 3-1. I'm never using this positive. 3-1.
Well, that's what I want to hear. I always go for a 3-0. So I'll say 3-0 because I also think as well that free-flowing football it is a thing at the City Ground under Sean Dyche. I've seen it myself. It's about chance creation. We talked about Forest's own XG is pretty flatlined. We kind of have an XG for scoring goals similar to our kind of XG for conceding goals. We need to up our game in terms of chance creation. We know we're bottom of the table when it comes to that factor. So, yeah, chance creation for me. Get your wingers in play. Make sure that we can get Luca scoring again, and trust the bench as well. If you need to, trust the bench with Dan Ndoye, who's looks a bit better. Igor Jesus, there's going to be 7 games between now and that game and Fenerbahce. So play them to the max. Make sure you get
this is a McAtee game. McAtee off the bench. This is a McAtee game of trickery and everything else as well. And he had a good last game. His mojo is on the up.
Well, listen, that's been another criticism of Dyche, his use of McAtee and others. When they played well, then they disappear. So look, questions being asked to the manager, questions being asked to the team. We've got to stick together, all right? Let's get behind the team on Wednesday night. Come on, you Reds.
Join Greg and Richard right here on Talking